What's up everyone, Chasca's rerun has just hit the game and there has never been a better time to jump in and pull her. With the conclusion of the Natlan chapter, all 5.0 characters are out, opening up a plethora of team possibilities for Chasca. But today I'm going to share with you the absolute best teams to play her in. Whether you've just pulled her, want to be at your best for not Krai, or are still trying to clear Stygian Onslaught, these are must-play teams you need to have in your arsenal. Without further ado, let's jump into our first team, which although is not Chasca's number one team, it's one that's very powerful and is prevalent both now and the future. Chasca Lunar Charge. Now, as much as I'd like to get her, I don't have a Nefa, but for the few of you brave souls that wish before a new region, she's actually a really good character to have. Beyond her fantastic sub DPS potential, constantly dealing electro attacks, her Lunar Charge reaction is a huge game changer to many characters, including Chasca. As of now, with enemies like the dumb cactus and no doubt enemies in not Krai, everyone needs a strong taser team to fight these guys, and Lunar Charge is the king of all taser teams, being triple or even quadruple times better than your classic taser reaction. With Lunar Charge, you're dealing damage equal to, I believe it was either Aggravate or Hyper Bloom, which though these teams are definitely not used all that often nowadays, they still remain as very powerful teams, and I encourage you to dust off your Nahida and Ahite them and give them another go, since it'll shock you just how strong they are despite being unpopular and unmeta. But back to Lunar Charge, this is where things get really exciting. It's a way to future-proof your Chasca. While Anefa's abilities are mentioned in a certain one of her talents, the devs have hinted that Anefa will gain more lunar abilities and reactions with the release of not Krai and likely subsequent characters. So by pairing Anefa alongside Chasca, you effectively make Chasca applicable to these changes, keep her relevant within the not Krai meta, and give her an all-new viability in the region. To maximize Anefa's talents, you'll want to play Farina alongside her. Farina here is pretty much mandatory. Given that Chasca's bullets are regarded as charge attacks, you cannot use Yalan and Xingqiu together with Chasca. Now there is another side to this team, but there's so much to it that it deserves its own section. But before I delve into this team, let's talk about Chasca's absolute best team. The number one team for Chasca, hands down, is Melt with Mavuika. This team is so stupidly strong that, no joke, I refrain from using it since it kills so fast. With this team, it's like you're cheating. By playing Mavuika, you get all her usual broken benefits, off-field damage, her damage bonus to the active character, but best of all, massive nukes. And this is what makes this team so powerful. Though Mavuika is basically a sub DPS here, if you have Seat Lolly, this enables her to use for Cinder City, granting Mavuika and Chasca damage bonus, but more importantly, enabling Mavuika to use her normal DPS set and dish out her crazy burst damage. In this team, you have all the pros that you get from Mavuika in her Melt team, so you effectively have two DPSs. Just by Mavuika alone, the vast majority of enemies are gonna get one-shotted, but if they're still alive, they're definitely gonna wish they weren't, since when it comes to Chasca, she herself deals incredibly high damage as well. Chasca's bullets will be converted to cryo and pyro, and this results in a relentless barrage of melts and reverse melts, tearing through enemies and taking big chunks of the enemy's health bar. Finally, slot in Bennett for even more attack to Mavuika and Chasca, and voila, you've literally got an unbeatable team that will rip through virtually everyone. If you're missing some of these characters and want to recreate its strength, you can thankfully do so with the team's multiple variations. If Seat Lolly isn't available, throw Force Cinder City on Mavuika to maintain its crazy buffs and keep Chasca's and Mavuika's damage high. All that's left now is a cryo support, and you're able to pretty much use anyone you have. Rosaria is a pretty decent choice, providing decent cryo application for melts and crit rate buffs, which sure, already Chasca's getting 40% through Obsidian Codex. As long as she doesn't overcap on it, it's always good to have more. Diona can step in as well, mainly to boost your team's EM and enhancing your melt damage. If you're too good to use any Mondstadt characters, you're in luck, as Charlotte is actually the best of these two. I cannot lie, I've been sleeping on Charlotte, but no longer. She's a very strong free-to-play buffer. She'll initially output very high cryo application, making melts easy. This application will fall off very hard right after, yet she has the added bonus of using Thrilling Tales, giving your Chasca or Mavuika a massive surge in damage when its effect is active. For those missing Mavuika, Xiangling is a solid free-to-play option. Her pyro damage is reliable as long as you can meet her gluttonous requirements of energy recharge. If you need to, you can use Favoni's Lance on her. It's a little depressing, but Bennett will make up for the lack of attacks she'll have. The second option doesn't share in this sinful hunger of energy, but definitely does not deal as much damage, and I mean the Pyro Traveler. Now stop cringing, he's actually viable since he can use Cinder City, so what he lacks in damage he does give to Chasca, which is a very good thing. Shenhe is also a great choice. With her you'll have more consistent melts since you'll now have more cryo units in your team, so you'll deal less reverse melts and more proper melts. Furthermore, all the benefits that Shenhe gives to cryo damage will apply to Chasca since she of course will be firing cryo bullets. Before we move on, I just ask that you take a quick second to like the video and possibly subscribe. This both helps me out and means a lot to me. And also, be sure to let me know what teams you've been playing Chasca in. Not only so I can try them, but that we can all benefit from new teams. Now, let's shuffle back to the different side of the Lunar Charge team I mentioned. If you're cosplaying Zhongli like me and couldn't get an Effa, there's still strong teams to be played that involve Electro. First is a pure Taser team. Now, I know what you're thinking, oh, Taser is weak, there's no point in using it, but believe me, after Natlan and all the buffs it got, it has become a surprisingly viable and especially worthwhile team given the need for Taser teams. The core of a strong Taser team begins with Auroron, and for those of you familiar with my channel, you'll know that I joke about Auroron, calling him Moron Auroron, but I think I'm gonna stop because no joke, he's actually a bit of a beast in Taser. On the one hand, he has Night Soul attack so he can make great use of Cinder City, then factor in the high Electro he applies to enemies, making Taser all too easy to perform, and then the buff that he gives to himself and his team. For instance, a big buff to his own Electro damage and a 30% attack increase to the active character if he has a C6 activated. He's also a great battery when using the Favoni's bow, thus he's really the cornerstone of the Taser team, supporting it in all aspects. Again, we're gonna use Farina, and if you're fighting the Cactus and Stygian Onslaught or other Taser requiring bosses, you'll need another slot of a Hydra or Electro character if you want to beat him. From my testing, an imperfect but more than viable unit for this is iansan. This Munchkin is a top choice as with their Electro Vision, Chasca gains more Electro bullets, creating more tasers and more damage, great for breaking a certain Cactus's shield. But more importantly, iansan's buffs synergize really well with Chasca. Iansan's kit revolves around giving attack to a character that moves around a lot, and this describes Chasca perfectly. If you've got Iansan's constellation, she becomes as strong as the people she trains. The only shortcoming of this Munchkin is that she's not great in building Farina's fanfare. She'll build some of it, which is certainly better than nothing, but you won't get the most out of Farina. She'll at least heal enough to where your characters won't die from Farina's Hell Train, which is still good in its own right. This is the best pure Taser team you can come up with, and it is great against this stupid Cactus. If you're struggling with this guy in Stygian Onslaught, try this team out against him. Legitimately, in my first try, which I'll admit is a bit scuffed, I was able to beat him. Just do not use Chasca's burst too often. If you haven't pulled the Iansan, you can switch her with a very popular unit that will alter the team dramatically and actually for the better. This being Bennett. As long as you build him as a healer, on the one hand Bennett can build more fanfare than iansan, so the whole team gains in damage, but his presence will give Chasca pyro bullets, creating an overvape team. The overvape reaction is good on its own, but with Chasca you get the added bonus of dealing vaporize every now and again. However, seeing as we're making big changes, if you want to utilize Chasca's second best team, you can go all out in this regard, replacing Auroron with Mavuika to create a traditional vaporized team. This team maintains all the benefits and upsides of Chasca's melt team, but triggers vape instead of melt. I highly recommend this team if melt is unapplicable to you, and speaking of unapplicable, you can use all the replacement characters I mentioned in the melt team for this one. Similarly, you can use Fischl and Yaimiko as alternatives to King Auroron. Next up, let's go over a powerful composition that's a bit of a contradiction. Over the past few patches, we saw massive buffs to freeze, and since Chasca isn't so much an Anemo DPS but a DPS of whatever you make her out to be, you can fashion her into a freeze DPS, and that is an immense positive of Chasca I feel isn't talked about enough. Chasca is so flexible, you can mold her into any DPS you need and she'll do really well. If you lack Skirk or Ayaka, just slap on a few Cryo and Hydra units and and boom, you've got your cowboy Skirk. Just like other top freeze teams, we've got Farina and Escoffier. Escoffier is basically required for freeze to be powerful. Her Hydro and Cryo shreds are huge and immensely valuable, considering that Chasca will be firing these very elements. Where things get icy though is with Escoffier's restrictions. For some reason, she only wants to serve Hydro and Cryo units, and it's because of this that Chasca can't utilize Escoffier's max shred. But still, Escoffier's shred at 3 Cryos and Hydras is still good, and her damage is still really high. However, I know many haven't pulled Escoffier, and if you haven't, you should play Charlotte instead. Other than all the positives I last mentioned, Charlotte's healing also builds high fanfare, another one of the many reasons Charlotte is so strong. For the final team slot, you should use any Cryo or Hydra that would fit into freeze. Lolly is an amazing option since she can use Thrilling Tales like Charlotte and further shred enemies' resistances to Hydro. If you're looking for a more offensive option or into floating Cryo women, there's no better choice than Skirk. Playing the two together is actually quite seamless, and Skirk doesn't take much time on field. She won't get in the way of Chasca's field time, and with damage like this, you can never go wrong. Well everyone, these are the top teams for Chasca. I hope you try them out and find great success with them, and please let me know what you think about them. Thanks for watching.